On this virtual tour stop, we are in a 20-year-old Baldcypress plantation on a terrace site just outside of Goldsboro, North Carolina. Soil type that we're on is Keenanville sandy loam. The Neuse River is just a couple of hundred yards to your right or my left. So it's considered kind of an upland site, at least for eastern North Carolina standards. Plantation was planted at a spacing of 8 by 10, so we have a density of 544 trees per acre. Quadratic mean diameter here now, and this is a 360 video, so you can kind of follow me around in here. Let's just use your mouse and pan. Quadratic mean diameter is about 8 inches at diameter breast height right now. Heights of these stems are between 35 and 40 feet. So for 20 years of growth, because it's now 2020, and this was planted in 2000, that's pretty good. That actually beats a lot of the loblolly pine plantations that I put on some of my poorer sites in the Piedmont, on some of those heavy clays up there. So this is pretty good growth. I've been pretty pleased with it. It obviously changes a little bit depending on site quality. If you go downhill back behind you, we lose a couple of feet of elevation, the trees get bigger. I'm kind of on the upper portion right now. One of the questions that I often get is, why would you put in a Baldcypress plantation? And it's a valid question. It's not a species you see in a plantation setting all that often. There has recently been some research on that. I'll go ahead and post it in the comment section. Louisiana State University did some pretty cool work with cypress plantations. But our main motivation behind it was there is a market for cypress products in this area. So people want the cypress mulch. People also like cypress saw timber. And there is also growing concern over the harvest of areas where cypress is known to grow naturally. So those kind of bottomland streamside sites where you find cypress, there's increasingly concern over actually sending harvesting equipment in there. So the thought is that if cypress can actually be planted in a plantation setting on more upland sites, it not only takes the pressure off of the sites where it grows naturally to meet, the need for cypress products, but it also opens up the opportunity for year-round harvesting of those products off of the plantation sites. So this is an old ag field where cypress was planted. So this wasn't like we converted this from forest and put cypress in here. This was an abandoned ag field. Cypress is now growing here, and while it is a sandy loam, we can actually get in here for a good chunk of the year without tearing up the site. So this is an example of basically trying to meet our fiber needs for certain products while taking the pressure off of the more natural sites and opening up, kind of putting them on more all-weather site conditions. So the other thing I will point out, this was actually a cherry bark oak plantation prior to being a cypress plantation for 1 year. So in 1999 they planted cherry bark oak, but it almost all died due to flooding, really. So they ended up coming in and they planted a Baldcypress where every dead cherry bark oak was. So that's most of what you see, but there are the occasional cherry bark oak. There is the occasional cherry bark oak still growing in here, like this little one right here. They thought it was dead, I guess, but it wasn't, and they planted a cypress next to it. There's a couple other big stems throughout here. They're actually similar in size to the cypress, but I'll go ahead and close out. I'm getting long here. 20-year-old Baldcypress plantation on a kind of more uplandy stream terrace site right outside of Goldsboro, North Carolina. Pretty good growth. Maybe something you should think about on some sites you're managing.